Welcome into Ball. He is ESPN's Tom Luginbill. I'm Ryan Brown. It's presented by MyBookie.ag. Code next round, MyBookie.ag. Code next round to get signed on with that 110% sign-on bonus at MyBookie.ag. Lugs is joining us not from his normal studio, but from the road. You are in Boone, North Carolina, Lugs.
Yeah, man. It's that time of year, right? We've got midweek games, and I think it's 50 straight days of football every single day of the week. So this time of year, I start pulling some double duty. I got a couple of more in November, then probably some FCS playoff games. But this is a fun one in Boone, man. It's one of the greatest environments in college football. I call it the Boise State of the East Coast. Coastal Carolina coming to town to take on App State. So looking forward to it tonight on ESPN2.
For those that have never been to the western part of North Carolina to see that area, it is a gorgeous area. That is a beautiful campus, widely regarded as one of the most beautiful campuses really in the world.
It's awesome, man. I mean, you're about 2 hours from Charlotte. You're up in the mountains. Right now we got the fall foliage change, a lot of orange, a lot of yellow, a lot of red and brown. And then it's interesting because the campus sits right in the valley of about 3,500 feet. And then, you're 25 minutes from two ski places to go. The stadium's really cool. If you haven't been up here, they call it the Rock because it's literally built sunken down into bedrock. That's what it's up against and what it lays upon. So just it's a cool spot, man. There's no secrets as to why this place has been successful.
All right, so Luginbill is there, and then Saturday we'll be in Tuscaloosa for Alabama, Arkansas. We'll talk about that game coming up in a moment. But as we get started here, a reminder that at MyBookie.ag, again, when you sign on with code next round, you make that initial deposit. They match it 110%. That is absolutely free money, 110%. They're at MyBookie.ag. That is code next round. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie.ag, code next round. Let's start, though, with when weaknesses collide. Now, one of these I fear you might disagree with.
All right.
So I'll save it for a second. One of them I know you won't disagree with. Auburn is at LSU. The weaknesses that will collide here, Auburn's offense, LSU's defense. Auburn's offense currently, Lugs, in passing is ranked behind Army. Army is 120 in passing. Auburn is 121, and the stats are almost identical. Across the board, it's not just yards per game. I mean, like everything's identical. LSU is 14th in the SEC against the run, 13th against the pass. They're awful defensively. How do I evaluate when weaknesses collide?
Whether or not, if LSU says, hey, listen, we haven't been able to stop the run, but these guys can't throw it. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to roll the dice. We're going to push the chips to the table. We're loading the box, and we're going to say, Hugh Freeze, Peyton Thorne, Robbie Ashford, we dare you. And now live and die at the line of scrimmage. Now, can you do it on every down? No. But I know that if you're going to give up an explosive and you haven't been able to stop the run, at least force it through the air where the percentage is way into your favor. There's way more things that can go wrong, right? There's one said that when you throw the football, three things can happen and two of them are bad, right? So I think that's kind of the recipe. And the good news, if you're an LSU fan, is that Auburn is not equipped to get into a track meet. Right now, LSU thrives on that because they know it's the only way to bail out their defense. And I think that if in this type of setting, and it's not going to be easy because I think we all know how difficult it is to play there. But in this type of setting, if LSU were to get up like 14-3 or 17-6 or something like that, it would really put a lot of pressure on Auburn because they wouldn't just be able to, hey, we're going to line up. Because I love their quarterback run plan versus Georgia. I just don't know if you can – it's the only plan they had. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of my point. But I mean, if it worked against Georgia, you got to try it against LSU, right?
Oh, there's no question. And they're going to force LSU to try to defend quarterback run and all those sorts of things. And in order for that to work, they have to stay ahead of the chains on early downs because if they don't, you're going to get an obvious passing situations. It puts you at a distinct disadvantage if you're Auburn.
All right. So the one you might disagree with, and I'm fine if you do, obviously, you're a better football mind than me. But when I watch Notre Dame, they're not like awful on offense, but it seems to hold them back. It seems like they've played good enough defense to beat Ohio State, good enough defense to beat Duke, and their offense has not participated. But now I play USC, whose defense rarely participates. Am I calling offense a weakness for Notre Dame? Is that being a little too harsh by me?
I think it might be a little too harsh. I just also think it's fair to say that Notre Dame is just plumb tuckered out.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at the gauntlet that they are now embarking on for 4 straight weeks, and they just might be mentally and physically spent. Now, and we said it on this show after the first 2 to 3 weeks going into that Ohio State game. We really don't know how good either of those two teams are because they hadn't played anybody.
Yeah.
So they made it look easy. And at that time, Notre Dame looked like, wow, this is a well-balanced, well-oiled machine. They can run it. They're aggressive at the point of attack. Sam Hartman's making all the right decisions, and he is. And then he wasn't. And then all of a sudden it became tough sledding. And you get back-to-back road games against really good teams, and it's just taken its toll. That being said, from what I've seen from SC on defense, you can be an average offense and move the football.
Right.
You could be a below average offense. My biggest question is if Notre Dame is who they think they are on offense, meaning that we are a line of scrimmage football team, we're going to run inside and outside zone and lead zone and counter, and then we're going to come off of play action, and that's where our passing game is going to come. How's SC going to stop the run game? That's the question I want to know, because if they can't, that's the recipe for Notre Dame. Now, and I'm assuming that Notre Dame's not worn out. They're going to be ready. This is a rivalry game. They're going to come out. Their mindset's going to be right. They're at home. They do have some things in their corner. So let's assume all of those things are right in their mind. Their mode of operation has to be, we have to limit SC's offensive possessions.
Yeah.
I was stunned against Arizona when Jed Fish decided to kick it in the first overtime and give the ball back to Caleb Williams. You're on the road. You have a backup quarterback. You've outplayed SC. Go for 2 and get the hell out of the Coliseum. Right?
Exactly.
I mean, that
no doubt.
stunned me.
Yeah.
So it is about limiting how many times Caleb Williams touches the ball. Let's call it what it is with SC. This is Caleb Williams and some offensive skill guys. That's their entire roster. We kind of talked about Colorado. They've got a handful of guys that are really good. Their depth is really depleted and not good enough. SC right now has a handful of guys and has better athletes than Colorado does on defense, and might be worse than Colorado on defense.
Yeah.
And it's astounding to watch that and to see this. I call it a blind spot for Lincoln Riley, who I have so much respect for as a play call and an offensive mind and a quarterback coach. But how many times is it going to take to realize not only are you not winning a championship, you're not even going to come close to getting to the college football playoff playing like that on that side of the ball. Here's one for you, Ryan.
Okay.
Where would you rank SC in the top 10 top teams in the Pac-12 right now?
Of the Pac-12. So, and we're going to get to this game at the end here. Washington and Oregon, I feel like right now are the best teams in that conference that they play this week.
Agree.
Yeah, and that's
UCLA.
I mean, here's the problem, and I know Utah's got a good defense, but I watch UCLA go play Utah, and they can't move the football on them.
Yeah.
Nobody's
moving the football against Utah.
I know. But I mean, if USC went and played Utah, USC would move it on them more than UCLA did. I mean, we'll see that later in the year.
It's an entirely different quarterback conversation, too,
That's
though,
right.
when you compare those two teams. But, I look Washington State was one of the hottest teams in America that nobody was talking about. What do? They go on the road. They turn the ball over 4 times. They lose. All right. They deserve to lose.
Yep.
UCLA got the better of them. UCLA is starting to get confidence. That quarterback's growing up a little bit. I would still put Oregon State in the conversation as being a better football team. I'm talking about all-encompassing.
Yeah.
Because Oregon State can play defense, and they're physical, and they can play keep away, and they can get off the field on defense.
Yeah.
So I guess the point that I'm trying to make is I'm scratching my head at these AP voters that are considering SC to be a top 10 team. Are they even watching SC?
Well, and I think some of that is name brand, some of it is Caleb Williams, but
a lot of it's Caleb Williams.
And some of it is too the USC game. The Pac-12 had an entire schedule last week, played on the Pac-12 network, save the USC-Arizona game. That was the only game.
Sees it.
I know, it's the only game the whole country could watch was USC-Arizona. Yeah. And that should have hurt USC, by the way. They played awful. It's the worst game they've played this year. But somehow it didn't, because you didn't see UCLA do what they did to Washington State this past weekend. I think the country will see the best two teams. We'll talk about that game at the end with Washington and Oregon. Ball is presented by MyBookie.ag. Code next round when you sign on at MyBookie.ag. Get that sign-on bonus right away. It is 110%. You can play it right away. You win one time, it is yours forever. It's not one of those bonuses where they make you win 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. MyBookie.ag, code next round. Also, Lance'sLock.com. I got a.
How's Lance doing?
Hey,
how did he do? Because I got spit and lugs with him tomorrow.
He's killing it, Lugs. I was going to pull this up. I saw this. Let's see. This is the past month. So I'm guessing this is the past 30 days, not necessarily a calendar month, the past 30 days. He is up 14.31 units last month. 14 plus units. That's winning ball right there.
Yeah.
Get it done. So he's been red hot in football. Yeah. And the postseason baseball, really good too. Lance'sLock.com, up 14 units in the last month. Great time to get on board with single day packages, weekly, monthly, year-long packages for a great value at Lance'sLock.com. All right, Southern Barbecue, you got the game. Alabama, Arkansas. Will it be a barbecue? Will the hogs get roasted? We'll discuss that. But first, let's talk actual barbecue. You live in North Carolina, but you spend a lot of time in Alabama. You more beef or more pork?
I'm probably more pork.
Okay.
I'm probably more pork. And, you know, my wife's from the state of Alabama, and I spent a considerable amount of time in that state.
Right.
So, yeah, and yeah, I'm a pork guy. There's no doubt. But I'm also a white sauce guy.
Okay, that was coming up. White sauce on pork or just on chicken?
On everything.
On everything. Okay.
Pork, chicken. Yep. Have you ever dipped a hush puppy in it?
Oh,
that'll change your life.
Yes, I like white sauce. But when it comes to the red sauce, are you thicker, thinner, middle of the road with a red sauce? You like the vinegar base? You like, more of the tomato base? Which one?
I don't care about the consistency. I care about what the kick is.
Okay.
I want some spice.
Yeah, I
like
mean,
the hotter the better for me. You mix sweet and spice for me.
Oof,
I might not push back from the table.
If you eat a barbecue sandwich or a barbecue chicken sandwich, is it okay to have slaw on it? Are you okay with slaw on a sandwich?
Depends on the slaw.
Okay.
Like I see, I don't think all slaw is created equal.
I agree.
Personally, I'm not a big coleslaw guy. I'm just not. But then there'll be some I'll take. I'm like, well, that's kind of different. I kind of like that. But I'm not a have to have slaw with my barbecue. If I were to go through like a buffet line and there was coleslaw there, 99% of the time I wouldn't get it.
I pass. See, I'm like you. I never eat it as a side. I like it as a condiment. I like it on a sandwich.
Yes.
I think it adds to the sandwich. All right, so if you're going to sit down for a meal of barbecue pork, is it chopped? Do you like a barbecue rib? What do you like?
I probably like spare ribs more than anything else.
Okay.
Yeah. Baby backs are probably my favorite, I would say. Here's one for you on barbecue. You're familiar with Wits in Alabama, right?
I am.
Okay. So have you ever had their stuffed baked potato?
Oh, I have not.
Okay, so they make this big, gigantic stuffed baked potato,
right,
with loaded fixings. So cheese, sour cream, butter, chives, bacon, and then whatever it is, pulled pork, brisket, pulled chicken, whatever. And then you add your sauces and all that, and you just take it, you just crush it all up.
Right.
Top notch.
Oh,
throw some white sauce on there too.
Oh, heck yeah, it sounds phenomenal. Okay. All right, so the Hogs coming to Tuscaloosa, all that set up to get to Alabama, Arkansas. Alabama coming off that win where they had a ton of penalties. They probably didn't play their A game, but they went to College Station and won. That pass rush Alabama had Saturday was just relentless, Luginbill. So last year, it became in vogue, and maybe it was true to say, boy, Will Anderson did not live up to the hype. Dallas Turner did not have a great game against Texas, but aside from that, he has absolutely lived up to the hype. That guy's having a year right now for Alabama.
Absolutely. In fact, I would venture this argument to people out there. It's interesting how the defense started to really come on at the same time Jalen Milroe started playing better against Ole Miss.
Right.
And when those two stars aligned, all of a sudden there's a little bit of a different feel about this football team. And you go on the road to Texas A&M. I think Texas A&M is actually a pretty good team. I really do. I think they're a pretty good team. And in order to beat them, we said on this show last week, unfortunately, because of A&M on defense, who nobody can run the ball against, Alabama's going to have to throw the ball to beat them. And you know what? That kid went out there and did it. He showed poise and he showed composure. He was able to have a short memory when they didn't play well. I know things are still a work in progress up front. He's taken a lot of shots, 5 sacks. The penalties are killing him, particularly the procedure penalties. So he was up against a lot of obstacles and just kept forging ahead. And I think he showed Alabama's fan base an awful lot about his competitive temperament and his mental toughness. The fact that the defense, and I'm going to point out something else here too that I think gets glossed over. The defense with their injuries, particularly to Malachi Moore, and the alternates that came in and how they ended up putting the pieces of the puzzle, moving Terrion Arnold into the star, putting then Amos out to corner where you can kind of protect him because you can say, hey, listen, just cover that guy.
Yeah.
And be aware of run support. Whereas Arnold has to, he's involved in communication, getting guys lined up and things of that nature. So I thought they made the right chess pieces and the moves on the board there. And it wasn't perfect initially, but then they settled in. If you remember, I think there was a penalty or there was a dropped something right after that happened. But then they settled down and they got the lineup right. But you know who the guy was that probably, I don't want to say saved Alabama, but made a huge dent? You're going to go, what? Will Reichard.
Oh, there's no doubt.
The punter.
Yeah.
As the punter.
The hang time forced all the fair catches.
That's where I was talking about this with Jim, Brownie.
Yep.
So that's where all the hidden yardage is. Like, what if you had 6 punts and the guy returns all of them? What if one of them he gets a 6-yard return, another one he gets a 27-yard return, another one he gets an 18-yard return? You've eliminated all that. So you've maintained a long field behind a defense that is dominant.
Yep.
And so I just thought there was a play, and I've seen it a couple of times with the defensive front for Alabama. And it was Jaheim Otis, Dallas Turner, and this is the coach in me, everything's a number to me, 96, who was lined up over the nose. And Otis and 96 are lined up around next to each other on the inside, and Dallas Turner is coming off the edge, and they overload that side, and the guard for Texas A&M slips.
Yeah.
And poor Max Johnson sitting back there, and the walls are closing in, and it's like first rounder, and nobody's blocking 2 of the 3 of them, you know. And you start to see that, and you know, you quiet the crowd down. It wasn't perfect. And the penalties are problematic. We know that. We keep talking about it.
Oh, I know.
But they're so talented that somehow, some way, they're overcoming it. And I know that can't go on forever. But holy smokes, just an impressive outfit there to come away with a win.
Can I make a valid argument Caleb Downs is the best freshman in America?
Yes. In fact, I just came out with my top 25 freshmen on ESPN.com through the first 6 weeks of the season. I had him number 2 behind Zachariah Branch at USC.
I'm fine with that. Yeah,
that dude is the best player on their team next to Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I know. I'm fine with that. Branch is incredible, but what Caleb Downs is doing, and then to your point, Saturday, he's asked to do it now without the veteran Malachi Moore next to him for a lot of that game. All of a sudden, this kind of becomes his show at the safety spot there. And the way Arnold played, that was just, it was, you look at the scoreboard, normally you wouldn't say masterful defensive performance, but A&M, they held them to 103 second half yards. That's pretty, on the road, that's a masterful defensive performance right there.
No, it really is. And going back to Caleb Downs, because, those who follow recruiting and they follow it very closely and they're passionate about it and they see the star rating and they see the 4 and the 5-star and this and that. And I've said this to you hundreds of times over the years. It's all of these guys coming out of high school, or if you're a top 50, top 100, even top 200, 300 player, 99% of them are physically gifted enough to play as a freshman. Like, it's not the physical uptick that you're adjusting for. It's from the neck up. Like, can you handle all the other stuff? Like, can you handle being away from home, going to class, being accountable for your time, waking up at 5 a.m. for the workouts, going to study hall, being on time for meetings, training table, all of these different things. And then, oh, by the way, be that same way on the football field with everybody that's 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 years old. That's where Caleb Downs is different. Caleb Downs is an adult brain and mentality in a kid body with NFL attributes. And those are rare traits. That doesn't happen all the time. If it did, there'd be 30 true freshmen dominating college football every year the way he is. And there's not. There's a handful of them.
Yeah, and he's been terrific. Alabama and Arkansas, good matchup for Alabama, you think, this week? They're a 19.5-point favorite or somewhere around there at mybookie.ag. Is this a good matchup straight out of game day with your game Saturday?
On paper, it's not, and I feel for Sam Pittman at Arkansas. I just got through 2 of his last 4. I'll get through the other 2 tomorrow, but they have been their own worst enemy. You couple that with injuries, which have been mounting on the offensive line, and now they're mounting on defense. They were down 5 guys coming off the Ole Miss game, and all 5 of them are questionable for this week. But really, when I say their own worst enemy, we've talked about Alabama's penalties. Each of the last 4 weeks, Arkansas has had double-digit penalties in every game except for 1. They've allowed 20 sacks in 4 weeks. So KJ Jefferson is getting banged up. He's getting beat up. I think he's starting to see ghosts a little bit. They don't have that blazing passing threat. And most importantly, they can't run the ball a lick right now. And so it's the way Alabama's playing and what's happening, I think, mentally and physically to Arkansas, it's taking its toll. Similar in fashion to what I said about like Notre Dame. Like, how much longer can you sustain this and be treading water and somehow find the steps at the edge of the pool and get out of it? And we'll find out. Sam Pittman will have them ready to play. The question is, do they have enough horses in the stable to run the race?
Yeah, 11 o'clock Central Time, noon Eastern, straight out of game day. You'll see Luginbill and his crew there in Tuscaloosa for Alabama and Arkansas. It is ball presented by MyBookie.ag. Code next round when you sign on at MyBookie.ag. Still now, you get that 110% sign-on bonus. Absolutely free money from MyBookie.ag. Play it, win right away. It is yours and yours forever at MyBookie.ag. Code next round. That is code next round when you sign on there at MyBookie.ag. Also, don't forget Roback.com. Great apparel with the quarter zips, the hoodies, the great golf shirts right there at Roback.com. We save you 20% on your first order there. TNR20 saves you 20% at Roback.com. That's Roback.com. Don't forget code TNR20 to save 20%. All right, let's talk a little time management. Everybody by now that cares anything about college football has seen what Miami did at the end of that game Saturday night. I flipped over just to see if they could close it out. I had not watched a ton of that game, Luke's, but I kept seeing Georgia Tech hang in there, Georgia Tech hang in there. Like, all right, let's see if we see an upset there. And for some reason, I didn't turn it off. And I'm glad I didn't because I got to see an absolute meltdown. I mean, let's just start by, oh my gosh, what are you thinking in that situation?
Well, the bottom line is the head coach is responsible, but this falls on 3 people really. The head coach, the play caller, and the quarterback.
Yeah.
You'd like to think as a quarterback, and I'd like to think I would have done this. Maybe I wouldn't have done this. But in that moment, you're in the huddle and a play call comes in, and you're going to kind of say to your guys, hey, listen, I might get my you-know-what ripped tomorrow, but we're not running that.
Yeah.
Line up and let's snap the ball in first down, take a knee, and we'll go in the locker room. And coaches want to get after me, get after me. That's fine. But I can't say for sure I would have done that. Tyler Van Dyke certainly didn't do it.
He did not.
Shannon Dawson, people talk about, well, how do you not step in, Mario? He shouldn't have had to step in, right? I mean, that should have been on the headset. All right, guys, no timeouts. Let's go ahead and take a knee. Shannon Dawson, yep, take a knee, blah, 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 blah. There shouldn't have been a step in moment, I guess, what I'm saying. And
right.
This is one of those rare instances in sports. There's really no other way to dissect it. It's a very simple breakdown, but this is one of those rare instances where by taking a knee, there's virtually a 100% certainty of the outcome.
Yeah.
Rarely do you have something like that happen. Like, people want to talk about that Super Bowl between the Seahawks and the Patriots. Oh, why did you throw it? You didn't hand it off to Marshawn Lynch. Well, there's no guarantee that Marshawn Lynch would have gotten into the end zone. It might have been a higher probability.
Yeah.
But in this particular instance, this is the rarity of this instance. We are literally talking about a 100% guarantee of outcome. And that's what makes it so disappointing and shocking.
All right. I want to do a little exercise with you. Before we do the exercise, though, can you, like, from your days as a coach or a player, give me the basic play that they ran, what that might sound like? Like, give me the verbiage in an offense. We would call it off tackle or run up the middle or whatever. What would an actual play call sound like in that situation?
Well, there's different terminology for all of it, but I could go deuce double wing 34 boss on one-on-one, or I could go deuce double wing 34 boss first sound.
Okay, so the deuce tells me what?
Deuce tells we're in a 2x2 set. The double wing tells you that your 2x2 set, because we're in 12 personnel, you're telling your two tight ends to line up in a wing, so they're offset right off of the offensive tackles, which is exactly, ironically, the formation that Miami was in. Depending on the offense, there are a lot of people that have different names for different things. I've been in offenses where, you have your even runs to the right, your odd runs to the left. So like your inside zone might be 34 on the right, 35 on the left, and your outside zone might be 38 and 39. I've been in an offense where we had names for all the runs. Like our inside zone was any boy's name.
Right.
And our inside zone on the left was any girl's name. And it enabled us to know huddle and use a different name all the time, and for people never to get a beat on the terminology. So there's a variety of ways of doing it. But essentially they just ran an inside zone or a midline.
Okay, so I don't know if Dawson is in the booth or on the field, and I don't know if you know.
He's on the field.
He's on the field. Okay, so he is going to call that, and it's going to be in the headsets, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's going to be a coach or a backup quarterback that hears that, signals it into Van Dyke. Okay, so that's the way this is going to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in coaching, I've never been on these headsets. Dawson doesn't just say it once, right? Like he's going to clearly say it. I mean, how does that work? Take me through how that works. So
he would clearly say it. So he would clearly say to be going, all right, give me whatever they use terminology personnel wise. So we'll call it 12. Give me 12. Give me 12. Give me 12. Somebody's on the sideline, and the personnel's waiting to go in. 12's going in, so we got our personnel coming out. Give me 12. Give me 12. Give me 12. All right. Deuce double wing. Deuce double wing. Usually you're saying things 2 and 3 times. Deuce double wing. Deuce double wing. So 34 boss. 34 boss. Let's make sure we've got no false starts. Let's take our time. We don't have to rush this. 34 boss, 34 boss. Let's go first sound. Let's not mess with any false starts. Let's go first sound, 34 boss. And all of that stuff's going in like the whole time.
Okay, so the whole time now there's a guy that's signaling, all that in, he's doing all the signals. But the whole time, Mario Cristobal is on the headset there, right? And the whole time, at any point, Mario Cristobal could have either keyed the headset and said, whoa, 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 or, hey, timeout. I've got a timeout. Let's call timeout, Shannon. Hang tight now. Let's don't do this. I mean.
And only one instance could that not be correct.
In what case?
The headset that the head coach wears can switch from the offense to the defense by the press of a button.
It could.
Now,
yeah.
I would not imagine he would have been on the defensive frequency.
No reason to. They were done with the night, it appeared.
They were done with the night unless he was having a conversation that bled over into the possession.
Right.
That's the only way that could have happened, that he wouldn't have heard it.
But even still, if I'm Mario Cristobal, because you made a good point there, if they are changing personnel, I know something's up, right? Even if I'm not on the headset, if I see personnel changing, why the crap are we changing personnel? We're just taking a knee.
Yeah, now I don't know if in this instance that might have been the personnel they had on the previous down.
Yeah.
It could have been. But I was just giving you how the play call would play out if you heard it on a headset and the players heard it and they were signaling it in.
Right.
If you were making a personnel change.
Yeah, because Hasselbeck is doing the game, and I'll give Hasselbeck credit. He's doing the game on ACC Network. That's Tim, right? Tim Hasselbeck.
Yeah, he called it really well.
He did, and even the plays leading up to that, Luginbill, he's like, man, I don't know why they're on the line so early in the play clock. You're asking your linemen, to stand still for a very long time, knowing you're not going to snap this ball. So already he's like, I don't know why they're out of the huddle on the line so early. Take more time in the huddle. Don't bring your guys to the line until 10 seconds on the play clock so they don't have to stand so long. So he's already like, I don't know what they're doing here. And then after Georgia Tech uses their timeouts and they're running the ball, he's like, why are they running the football? Literally, all you have to do is take knees. Like Hasselbeck felt this coming.
Not only that, they were in the shotgun.
Just make it even more difficult. Yeah. I mean,
even more bad things can happen.
But you know what gets lost in all of this? Is like you could have still won the game, but no, your defense, who probably to their defense probably is like, we're done for the night. I'm unbuckling my my pads. I'm throwing away my mouthpiece, and now all of a sudden we're called back out on the field. We didn't expect to be out there. They let a receiver. They get Christian Leary or all the way behind the defense. I'm like, I mean, that failure gets ignored because of how bad the offensive failure was.
And it wouldn't have happened had Haynes King not broken the pocket.
Yep.
When he got out on the run and Miami's eyes were to the quarterback and not deep as the deepest, they were in trouble.
They were in trouble, all right. I mean, if you're Miami and they play North Carolina this week, you just saw North Carolina get Syracuse. North Carolina's got Tez Walker back. Everything seems to be going their way. To me, there's really only 2 reasonable outcomes here. This team is a fragile mess and they completely melt, or they're tired of hearing their coach get drugged through the mud this week and they go out and every post-game interview is going to be, we won this one for Coach Cristobal. Everybody was Zone Mario. We love him and all that. I mean, to me, that's the only ways I could see this playing out.
So a couple thoughts on that. Number one, North Carolina cannot look at Miami the way Miami looked at Georgia Tech because of the Boston College or the Bowling Green debacle, right? So if you start having that mindset, then you're going to be in for a dogfight, all right? You better take Miami seriously. My second thought on this is what is such a shame about what took place in that moment was everything Miami had done to that point looked like Mario Cristobal made all the right moves. He made the right moves in the portal. He made the right staffing moves. Yep. They were playing lights out on offense. Tyler Van Dyke looked like the 2021 version. Like, you watch them, and you're like, they might be able to cause some problems for Florida State or Clemson or North Carolina, what have you. And in the span of 5 seconds, it all blew away. It was like, gone, right? So now, to your point, was that a blip? Was that just a brain fart and not a reflection of the progress that they had made to that point and how good they had been playing? Or do they let that one play destroy their season? And that's going to be based on leadership. That's going to be based on pride. And it's going to be based on having the maturity to move past it. And we won't know that till they take the field against North Carolina. North Carolina, though, don't take them lightly. Miami's got players.
Yeah. How long will it be for Tez Walker to be a fully functioning part of that offense, you think? He's been out a while.
What day? Today, Tuesday? Monday. Yesterday. Let me tell you something. So I'll give you some background on that.
Okay.
So he went through he left the spring as their starting wide receiver, went through all of the summer as their starter, went through all of fall camp as their starter. And they did not find out that he wasn't going to be able to play until they drove from Chapel Hill to Charlotte. So that was a Thursday night. He continued to practice and rotate with the ones because they figured they'd appeal, and by the next week they'd have the right answer. When they didn't get that was when they moved him to the scout team. So it wasn't as if he wasn't in game condition or he hadn't been practicing or he wasn't allowed to practice. He just wasn't getting reps with the offense. He was obviously the ultimate scout team weapon. But what he did, and it was interesting talking with Mac Brown about this last week, and Chip Lindsey as well, he said it was really kind of cool. Tez took it upon himself during that 3-week time to go sit in on different position meetings on offense. Wow. Go sit in on the offensive line meetings and see what they're being told and what they're responsible for. And go sit in on the quarterback meetings and what are they looking for and what are they expecting out of the receivers. And then go sit in the receiver meetings and the running backs meetings. And they said he really put the time in. It was super patient, but it was obviously – it was a big moment for them, man. He's different. Like, I didn't recognize it I didn't realize it until I saw him. I remember seeing him against Georgia last year. You remember what he had done to Georgia.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize how good he was. And that's a good receiving core in North Carolina. And he is better than all of them. I mean, so that's going to be a big weapon. He's
good enough that they're still undefeated, right? But I don't know that people buy into them as much as they do a Florida State or
right.
Bobby,
they're good enough.
Okay. Yeah.
They got to stay healthy. And you sit there and you say, okay, well, are they good enough on defense? Well, that's all relative to what we saw last year. Yeah. I mean, if they went out there and put their pants on a different way this year, they'd be better than they were last year. But Gene Chizik's done a great job. They have a lot more depth along their defensive front. They rotate a lot of guys. Trent did a wonderful job in the transfer portal. Yeah. And so they are better on defense, and that helps them. But Drake May's numbers might not be what they were a year ago. He's actually playing better football. They're just running it better, and they're far more physical.
All right, quick question for Luginbill to wrap up after I tell you that ball is presented by MyBookie.ag. Code next round there at MyBookie.ag. Get that sign-on bonus of 110% free money. When you make your initial deposit, they match it with 110% sign-on bonus there at MyBookie.ag. That is when you use code next round at MyBookie.ag. MyBookie.ag, code next round. 2 quick questions. Did we see the Big 12 championship preview Saturday? Do you think it will be Oklahoma, Texas part 2 when we get to December?
I do. The one question I would ask is, when is Jalen Daniels coming back for Kansas, and would it be in time for the Oklahoma game?
Yeah.
Texas was fortunate to get that one out of the way, not have to face him. But they're clearly the two best teams in the conference. When you look at how, Texas Tech's been disappointing. Baylor's been disappointing. TCU to some degree has been disappointing. Oklahoma State responded versus Kansas State, but Kansas State's clearly been disappointing. They lost to Missouri as well. So, yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of how this thing is setting up. As spectacular as that outing was, we're going to get a chance to see it again, I think.
Is this game Saturday in Seattle, the Pac-12 championship preview with Oregon and Washington?
Barring injury to either one of the two quarterbacks, I think it will be. I do. You look at these teams, and you know me, I'm not a big statistics guy except for a handful of them that I think really matter to winning and losing. But like everything across the board, average yards per pass attempt, passing yards, total offense, like they're all within like 5, 7, 10 yards of each other. Somebody's ranked number 1, the other team's ranked number 3. One of them's ranked number 2, the other one's ranked number 4. Like something's got to give, right? And I think that something is Oregon has to find a way to force Washington to be patient on offense. Washington is the best team in America at pushing the ball downfield on all 3 downs. It doesn't matter what down it is. All of those numbers they're putting up, they're not dinking and dunking and throwing little bubble screens and crossing routes 5 yards in front of them. Those are deep, low percentage throws for most people, and they hit them routinely. So if you take them out of that, how do they respond? Are they patient enough to run the ball, throw the ball underneath? And could they manage a 10-play drive, a 12-play drive? Because that's not how they've done it to this point. I think that's the focal point for Oregon on defense is if you're going to do anything, make them dump it off and come up and tackle. But if you start giving them up over the top, that's not going to – on the road to that place, it's not going to be a good recipe.
You can see Luginbill Tuesday night, Appalachian State, Saturday, straight out of game day, Alabama taking on Arkansas, and you can see those games there with Luginbill on the ESPN Family of Networks. Ball presented by MyBookie.ag. Code next round when you sign on there at MyBookie.ag. Get that 110% sign-on bonus. That is free money they are giving you. You can bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie.ag. Want some games to play? Lance'sLock.com gives you those. Lance is up 14 units just over the last month. He's slaying it right now in football. You can get on board with daily, weekly, monthly, year-long packages with a great value under $100 right there at Lance'sLock.com. And don't forget TNR20 when you check out at Roback.com for all their great apparel to save 20% on your initial order. Roback.com, code TNR20. All right, safe travels, Lugs. Have a good week. We'll see you next time.
All right, appreciate it. Take care.